So the other day I watched Andrei Jikh's videos about dividend, which is something I'm really interested in. You guys already know it. But something really interesting is that Andrei Jikh was one of the first YouTubers I actually started watching videos from that was speaking about finances, investing, and well, dividends, for example. And at the same time, I started also watching Graham Stephan's. But right now that I know a little bit more than I did before about these kinds of topics, I had a few things that I wanted to clarify from his video. So today we're gonna speak about what Andrei Jikh doesn't tell you about dividends. Now, of course, I got nothing against Andrei Jikh. I love his content, and he's one of the first person that I started watching on YouTube that made me being interested into these kind of topics. So I'm really grateful for that. I actually love what he does. But yeah, I just wanted to go over a few things that he said and over a few things about dividends especially that in my opinion could be a little bit improved. And that's also so that we can see a little bit more of the
darker side of dividends.
First point being that dividends are definitely not for everyone, even though they seem like an amazing tool. Because I don't know if you guys watch a lot of videos about dividend investing in particular, but there's something that's coming back a lot, and that's the praise about dividend being like really good. And we're gonna see in this video that it's true, but on the other hand, there is another side to dividend that we don't really see a lot of people speaking about, and that's mainly what we're gonna do today. So why are dividends not for everybody? Well, the first thing is that you will most likely feel, at least at first, like you are missing out on major gains. Because what happens when you invest into dividends over the short term, because we'll speak about later on what happens over the long term of dividend, which is super interesting in my opinion, but over the short term, you'll feel like you are missing out because of a few things. First of all, when a company pays a dividend, it means that the company you are investing in has less cash to reinvest into their own business, make more money, make more products and services so that they grow their revenue and overall grow the stock price of this company. So of course, it will mean that the company you are investing in, I mean, at least with the stock price, will seem like it's not growing really fast. On the other hand, you get the dividends, which is not something really you take into consideration when you don't really pay attention to it. But of course, company can still be growing, but not as fast as if they didn't pay a dividend, of course. But what can be really frustrating is that you are not growing really fast, even though you're getting paid dividend and the stock price is growing up a little bit. But on the other hand, you see all these companies that don't pay any dividend that are growing even faster, like 3 times faster than you are with your dividend stocks. And that can feel really discouraging, but that's understandable, I guess. Now, the problem is most people, when they will see that, will think that dividend is not really something that is for them. Even though they wanted a long-term growth with these companies, they can go into FOMO, so fear of missing out, and invest into these other companies that may be hype stocks sometimes. Then they crash, then these people lose money, and people are scared of doing these things. So on the first hand, you invest into dividends, then you see other companies growing way faster than the one you are investing in, so invest into these, then you see a crash or correction or whatever, and then you lose money on this move. But there's also something that will make a dividend company grow slower than other companies, and that's the fact that when a company pays a dividend, it means that the company is already profitable and well established, at least since a bit of time. So the problem with that is that a company such as Apple that pays a dividend that is well established but that is growing pretty fast compared to other dividend paying companies, well, they will still not be able to grow as fast as other companies without paying a dividend. And that makes complete sense because Apple is an enormous business worth trillions of dollars. So of course, if they want to double the next year, this is impossible for them to do so. But with other companies that are fresh, new companies that are growing a lot, it is completely possible to double in a year. But most dividend paying stocks are already big companies that are established and that are not doubling on the size every single year, which makes sense, and that's something that a lot of people actually don't understand quite a bit, and they are disappointed when they see that when they bought the stock, it didn't double in a year when these other stocks did. And that's because they pay dividend, but also because it's an already established business. And the second point that I want to talk about in this video is that dividend really won't make you rich, at least in the short term. And that's a fact and something you can't do anything about it. When you invest into dividend paying companies, let's say your portfolio is only about dividend companies, you have all your money invested into these, well, on the first year, you're not gonna make that much money. And that's normal, that's completely normal because dividends are maybe from 2 to 3 to 4% sometimes, overall in your portfolio. So of course it means that you're gonna grow this amount per year, and the stock price, as I said, isn't growing that much too, so it will feel kind of discouraging. But you need to wait multiple years for you to see compounding effects in your portfolio so that you see an exponential growth of income that's gonna make a huge difference. Now, if you guys don't know anything about compounding interest, well, let me explain you what it is. So let's say that you have $100 that you want to invest into the stock market, and you see these dividend paying stocks that pay a 5% dividend, right? And you're like, wow, 5%, it's pretty good. So you invest $100 into this company that pays a 5% dividend. Now, let's say you are a year later and this dividend company stock price didn't move at all. It's still $100. But then you get paid your dividend, so you receive $5 back. What you can do right now is take this $5 and reinvest it into the business that just paid you in the first place. So right now you have $105 invested that will give you 5% next time. And of course, if you get 5% and 5% and 5% and 5%, of course, over time, the 5% that you're gonna get paid is gonna be bigger than the time just before because you reinvest what you got from last year. And over the long term, and when I say long term, it's like 20 to 25 years, your portfolio can literally explode and double in value almost every single year because the dividends are getting bigger and bigger every single time than what you invested into the first place. But you have to be really patient and know exactly what you want to do with these dividend stocks. So you really need a really long-term view on your investments for you to invest into dividends. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work. And as I said before, it will feel discouraging at first, but over the long term, this is an amazing strategy to have. And that's, in my opinion, one of the dark sides of dividend. It will feel like you are doing nothing at first, and you only have to wait like multiple years for you to see real impacts on your money. And since we live in a world where people want short-term success, this is really not gonna work at all for them, and people can lose money on these trades. Now, another thing that I really believe could be improved when we talk about dividend is the fact that you need an immense amount of money invested for you to give you great returns. For example, in Andrei's video, he's showing his portfolio where he has about $220,000 invested into his dividend portfolio, which is a lot of money, right? But then he shows that he received about $730 from these dividend payments. I believe it was for just 1 month, which you can think is a pretty big number, which is right, but for a portfolio that is $220,000, it's really not the biggest amount of money. Now, don't get me wrong, this is paying completely for his rent, so he's pretty much living rent-free in his apartment, which is already insane. But of course, when you have $220,000 invested and you are getting $730 back every single month, you can say, well, if I invested this into growth stocks only, with just the stock price increase, you can have bigger amounts of money coming back to you. Now, of course, remember that dividends are passive income, and these are things that you don't need to buy and sell and all that stuff. You just receive these cash payments and you can use this money. But for the average Joe, $220,000 is a really substantial amount of money that a lot of people don't have. And I really feel that it can be discouraging for a lot of people to see that with $220,000 invested, you only get $730 per month. Now, a great way to counter that, on the other hand, is to invest into dividend paying companies, have a great dividend portfolio, but have smaller goals. Like, don't start with, oh, I'm gonna live rent free for the rest of my life, but just think about your car payment first, or your electric bills, or stuff like this that is way lower amounts that you can then say, oh, I earned enough to pay this bill, but then you invest the money, of course, because compound effect, right? But if you have smaller goals with the dividend payments that you get, it will get way less discouraging for you to see that you earned maybe $10 this month and then $15, $20, all that stuff. So keep small goals at first and grow over time. That's why you need to have a really long-term view on this dividend investing world. And also, I forgot to mention something about compounding effect, because as I said before, you see an exponential growth of income, you get paid this dividend that you reinvest them, and you get more money overall. That's great. That's actually one of the strongest thing about dividend, in my opinion. But something really bad about this is that you are getting taxed on dividends even if you reinvest them immediately into the stock that paid you in the first place. You're gonna get taxed on every single dividend payments that you get. And that can slow your growth quite a bit, because we don't really speak about taxes when it comes to reinvesting immediately a dividend. But this is definitely something that is gonna take part of your portfolio away every single time you get paid a dividend. And if you don't know, dividends are taxed as ordinary income. So let's say you have a salary, well, this will be taxed the exact same way as a salary. So what are my overall thoughts about dividends and Andrei's videos? Well, as I said before, dividend, in my opinion, is an amazing tool to use, but you have to have a long-term view on it. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work at all. It's a strategy that's gonna require consistency and persistence and patience too, if you want to be able to grow a dividend portfolio. Now, of course, as I said before, this is really not something for everyone. It will feel really discouraging at first, but yeah, if you keep in mind that over the long term, you're gonna keep these stocks and reinvest your dividends, you're gonna see an amazing growth, but of course you need to wait multiple years to see that. But overall, Andrei is correct about dividends. It's an amazing tool to use, and it's something that can be life-changing over time. So yeah, Andrei Jikh is correct about dividends. I just wanted to correct a few points and see the negative part of it so that you have kind of a balance and some arguments on either side to know if you want to start investing in dividends or not. Now, if you guys want to learn more about these topics, go and watch one of these two videos right here that are going to help you start with dividend and how you can start investing. Of course, if you like the kind of content we do on this channel, which is personal finance, investing and passive income, all that fun stuff, you can subscribe, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, I broke everything again.